What's up guys, Luke here from Luke's Points and Miles, and today I want to do a video. While all this information is fresh in my head, we just got back from Ireland for our anniversary trip, and I learned a lot of things about credit cards and traveling with credit cards to different countries. Now, I made a quick top 10 list of things I learned, and I think this list will help some of you if you are planning on going overseas or to a different country anytime soon. But first, on this channel, we talk about credit cards, points, miles, cashback, and travel. If you're into that sort of thing, hit that subscribe button. If you get any value at all out of this video at any time, please hit that like button. It really does help us with our YouTube algorithm, and it helps us get this information out to other people who can actually use it. Also, before we get started, guys, you will notice below we do have a Facebook page and an Instagram. If you have time, check us out on socials. And I know your time is super valuable, so I will get straight to the point. 10 things I learned on this trip. Number 1. Now, this is a very difficult statement for me to make because if you are a fan of the channel, you do know that I am a huge American Express fanboy. But my number 1 is, overseas, they do not want your American Express card. Here's what I mean about that. Your large hotel chains and things like that, no problem. But most of your merchants, your restaurants, and your individually owned hotels will not accept your American Express card. This happened so many times, I stopped even trying to use the American Express card. So keep that in mind when you do visit another country. And my number 2 thing I learned kind of coincides with this. Number 2 is make sure you bring a no foreign transaction fee Visa or Mastercard. It's something we talk about the channel a lot, and we are constantly reminding people of this, but you definitely don't want to pay that 3.5% or whatever that foreign transaction fee is. And you need to have the Visa or Mastercard because your American Express will just not be accepted at a lot of places. Number 3, and I have a really funny story for this one. Plan your restrictions and your requirements. And I know that's difficult because these are changing all the time, almost daily. Here's my example of what happened to me because I planned very poorly for our departure of Ireland. The United States requires you to have a negative COVID test to fly back to the United States. Well, we did not plan these tests very well at all. We showed up to the airport the morning of departure and kind of winged it. And here's what happened. First off, my wife had a terrible time downloading the app so she could get the appointment and get the emails. And what did I do? I got the wrong test. Let me explain. They only require an antigen test, which you can get back in 30 minutes. I got a PCR test, which takes 1 to 3 hours to get your test results back. So how it goes is you go through this building and get tested, then you go into the airport and you have to wait until you get your test results before you can check in with your flight. My wife and son got their test results and I didn't. That's when I realized I got the wrong test and I am going to be cutting it super close whether I'm even going to be able to check in at all. So I told my wife and boy to go ahead and check in and go ahead and head towards the plane, and hopefully I can get aboard. So I am standing at there is no line for Delta. So I am standing at the beginning of where the line would be with my phone constantly refreshing it. I got to about 5 minutes before check-in closed before I spoke to someone from Delta. Now, the funny thing about Ireland is they are a super helpful people. Their tourism industry is very organized and set up very well, and they're very helpful. But you will get 2 responses when you ask for help. You'll either get the help or you'll get, oh, sorry. So I asked the lady, what can I do to get these test results and what are my options? And she looked at me and she said, ooh, sorry. That's when I knew I was in bad shape. Now at this point, I started feeling really, really bad because I felt like I let my family down, and selfishly, I definitely did not want to stay in Ireland another day. There were no scheduled flights leaving from Dublin to the United States after that flight. So I get with someone from Delta and they begin the rescheduling of another flight the next day. And I'm telling you, I felt super bad. A lot of people would say, hey, Luke, you get to spend a day and a night in Dublin by yourself. How fun would that be? No, it would not be fun. So he starts to find me another flight, and I get test results on my phone. Took about 2.5 hours to get these test results, and check-in had closed 2 minutes ago. Well, in the spirit of all those helpful Irish people, they pushed me through the check-in, they checked my bag, and I ran to the airport. So I was about 30 seconds to a minute, I think, from being stuck in Ireland an additional day. And that would not have been a good thing. Going back, number 3, plan for your restrictions and your requirements. Do your own due diligence. I got lazy. I thought this would be super easy and didn't have to plan for it. I was wrong. Number 4, decide if you want to drive in a foreign country. In Ireland, they drive on the left side of the road, but in addition to that, they have some very narrow roads, and they're all twisty and windy roads. While that's probably not a big deal for a lot of people, I did a lot of driving. I drove 1,000 kilometers in a week, and while the driving wasn't that bad, I have to say that it was fatiguing, meaning my brain has been wired a certain way to do this driving thing in a certain fashion for 25 years, and I have to constantly send signals to my brain to stay on the left side of the road, to really concentrate during the roundabouts and the twists and turns. Driving 2 hours to a different city, I was worn out by the time I got there. So if you don't mind driving and you don't mind that challenge, probably not a big deal to some people, but figure out if you're willing to take that challenge, because in Ireland in particular, you really don't have to drive. It was one of the mistakes we made, getting a car and trying to drive everywhere ourselves. We'll get more into that in a second. Number 5, we have had a video on this in the recent past. The green card is still relevant. This is what I mean by that. This kind of contradicts number 1, that no one wants your American Express, but you can still use it. I used it to schedule tours on TripAdvisor. I used it for parking. I used it for tolls. I used it for ferries. And I did use it for a Marriott hotel. So even though most merchants do not want your American Express, your green card is still super relevant for your travel. Number 6, spend your foreign currency before you leave. I ended up really getting stuck with a few €100, and obviously I could have exchanged them at the airport. But if you've had these long, stressful travel days, you know that that doesn't always happen. So now I'm sitting in Central Ohio with a bunch of euros, and I'm really trying to figure out a plan how I'm going to go purchase American dollars with it. So it's a little bit hard to figure exactly how much you're going to spend, but have a plan for your foreign currency. Number 7, keep some points and miles back in your reserves for a change of plans. My plans always change when I travel. It's just the way I travel. I don't mind changing things on the fly. We were on the other side of the country the night before our flights, and I decided that it would be a really good idea to get close to the airport. So our last night in Ireland, I drove to the Dublin Airport Hilton to stay the night there for a quick, short drive to the airport in the morning. And thankfully I had some extra points, so it didn't really cost me anything. We talk a lot about the channel on earning and burning and not keeping back a ton of points, but have some set back in your reserves in case you want to change plans or in case something bad happens. If I would have got caught in Dublin an extra night, I think I would have had to have went to a Marriott and paid for points just because I didn't want to shell out the cash for an extra night. Number 8, this is important. This is a big mistake I made. Don't be too ambitious in a foreign country. Don't try to do too much. My plans were to do as much as possible and to really run a fast pace. It didn't work out for us. It wasn't something suitable for my wife and child's vacation style. Ireland is only about the size of Indiana, but you can't do the whole thing in a week. Pick a portion of Ireland or pick a portion of the country you're going to, and make sure you have some relaxation and some easy days in there. Don't be too ambitious. Number 9 is kind of a weird one. Hotwire's customer service is pretty good. We ended up using a Hotwire to book a hotel in Galway, and it was a really weird situation. I don't think it was the hotel's fault, and I know it wasn't Hotwire's fault, but we had a situation where we came back from walking around in town and our hotel room was wide open. The door was wide open. Nothing was stolen. It was just a really strange event. The hotel didn't mind. They didn't seem concerned at all, and they really didn't care. And to top it off, right around 8 o'clock at night, when we had an early morning, the bar next door had live music seemingly right under our window. So it was one of those situations where we were not going to be able to sleep. So I asked the desk, how often does this happen? He says, well, every night. So I said, okay, here's the deal. I can't stay here tomorrow. It's too late in the night for me to leave, but I can't stay here tomorrow. Obviously, that's not something I would take up with the hotel. It's something I would take up with Hotwire. Well, a quick chat with Hotwire explaining them the circumstances, they were completely okay with it. They refunded our second night, and we were on our way. Easy peasy. I would definitely recommend trying out Hotwire if that type of service fits your travel style. Number 10, this is the most important thing, guys. Global entry is worth its weight in gold. When we first got our global entry, we actually had to drive about 2 hours for the interview. And I thought, man, this is a real pain in the butt just for a global entry pass. It's not. It is amazing. When I came back from Dubai, I saw the line in customs at Chicago O'Hare Airport, and I walked right by it, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was. On a long travel day, the last thing you want to do is stand in line, especially with a bunch of stupid people in front of you. Now, with Dublin, they actually have the American customs in the Dublin airport. So while it took my wife and boy an hour to get through the line, I walked right by it. Now, I've already told you what happened to me at the Dublin airport. It was a stressful time, and I was running through the airport. So to have global entry, wow, really is a game changer. Those cards that we kind of breeze over that have a free global entry credit, that is a big deal. Use those credits. I also recommend you take advantage of the paid tours, and here's why. It is a lot more relaxing to just hand someone else the wheel and let them do the driving. But here's the big deal. Those guys and gals that are actually doing the tours, they are local people. They are really good at what they do. You get a local perspective on the area and the history of the area. We learned a lot of things about the Irish people and the history in Ireland, especially as it pertains to their relationship with England. Here in America, we're not taught a lot of those different things. And it was very interesting to hear from an Irish person about that relationship with England. And guys, I also want to recommend that even when you are overseas, use a cashback shopping portal or any type of shopping portal. When I scheduled our tours, I used the American Airlines shopping portal, and I earned American Airlines miles and loyalty points for booking the tours that way. Normally, our recommended shopping portal is Rakuten. Rakuten is a super easy to use cashback shopping portal. And the cool thing about Rakuten is you can opt to earn membership rewards points from American Express in lieu of cashback. And that makes them quite a bit more valuable in my opinion. And if you use our link below, you will get $30 back on your first purchase. It's free money. Guys, in the comments below, I want to hear, have you ever been to Ireland? And if you have, what did you think of that experience? If you've made it all the way to the end, thanks.